In the fourth part of the Introduction to VLab SDK lesson, you will learn about the sequence of steps in creating an interactive virtual environment application with the VLab SDK. As in every software development case, begin by describing the overall experience in a loose, abstract fashion. You should be able to both describe the environment and narrate the various scenarios in a relaxed, descriptive, yet complete and specific fashion. Next, you should get a bit more systematic in your analysis. Identify all key interactive components and the interactions involving each one. Next, identify all use cases and scenarios in a structured way, referencing interactive components and interactions described in the previous steps. Also, describe how the overall experience should look and feel. Describe the visual theme of the environment, the appearance of interactive components, the way they animate during interactions, etc. Also describe any sound effects during interactions as well as any background sound and noise. It is now time to get technical in your analysis. For each interactive object, carry out the following steps. Begin by specifying all points of interaction in terms of the VLab SDK's supported sensor types. Also, specify all interaction modalities involved, including typical desktop-based as well as immersive ones. All actual values and their value types involved in interactions and scenarios should now be specified as VLab SDK variables, each complete with a name, a variable type, required input variables and variable types, and desired value ranges. Finally, specify the complete object's behavior as a result of the orchestration of the above senses and input to them, variables and data exchange among them, and effectors driven by variables. The above process should be repeated, in a systematic fashion, for all interactive objects in the environment. To proceed in a more systematic, scalable and robust way, it would be a good idea to employ some formal specification techniques such as data flow or interaction diagrams. Next, is the implementation phase. It involves actually creating sensors, variables and effectors in the Unity editor and tying them all up in a concrete, functional system. First, create all required variables based on what was specified during the previous phase. It is a good idea to group all variables under a common parent, such as an empty game object named variables, to be able to easily identify them within the project hierarchy. You could also nest grouping game objects, depending on the number of variables required and the implementation's expected overall complexity. Part of this step is to create mapping and calculated variables. After creating a mapping or a calculated variable, you can route test values to its inputs and test run the application to explore how values transform and are generated. Next, create all effectors. Again, just as with variables and sensors, do group effectors under a common parent or parents. Finally, make sure to link all of the above components and perform test runs as needed to verify and fine-tune the structure, value ranges, expression parameters, etc., as needed, guided by the descriptions of the overall behavior and individual interactive objects derived during the previous phases. Repeat the above steps for all interactive objects. You now have a complete, functional application that should be close to working the way it was intended to. Run the application as many times as needed, testing for both regular operation as well as extremes and refining as required, in order to make sure that the whole experience is exactly as originally intended.